All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Wilkins, for joining us. You've been very highly requested from the boys, particularly the old boys. So really keen to hear a bit about Mr. Mark Wilkins. Think about a podcast. I don't know. Have you ever been interviewed?
No, I haven't.
It's on debut, ladies and gentlemen. So the thing with the podcast is you can literally go. We can talk about whatever we want to talk about. Um, but I think the most relevant thing is to go back to the very, very start. So I want to hear a bit about your life, particularly growing up in South Africa. So what is your first memory back in South Africa?
It's back at my hometown. So my hometown's East London. It's on the east coast. It's halfway between Cape Town and Durban. It's the only river port. It's the life bloodline of the town is Mercedes-Benz. And Nelson Mandela comes from that region. So the Xhosa tribe actually originates in the Transkei and the Ciskei. So it was very much of a family town, right by the sea. We lived literally 2 blocks away from the sea. So my playground was the beachfront, the waves, the sand dunes, all that type of thing. Was very lucky to have 2 incredible parents, both my mom and dad. It was Don William Wilkins and it was Ilse Dirkie Jacob here Jones originally, and then it was Bill Wilkins. I have such fond memories of them because when you think back as growing up, you don't realize what influence your parents have on you. And you don't go out and particularly say, look, I want to be just like my parents. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to copy that. It just comes naturally to you. So all your characteristics, your manners, your morals all come from your parents. And I have to thank my parents for that. I can honestly say my father worked for the South African Transport Services as a liaison officer, knew the Xhosa language backwards, spoke it fluently. And so he would go out and negotiate if there was any problems. And they so well respected him that he actually was made a member of one of their tribes. And then he retired at 55 and went on into army full-time and was a lieutenant colonel. My mom, on the other hand, was a house mom, wonderful. We would go on Sundays, we'll never forget, we would go to Sunday school first, and then we would go down to the beach. I have an older brother of 2 years, Neville, and a younger sister of 4 years, Elizabeth. He would take my sister on his shoulders and each boy in his hand. Off we'd go down to the Orient Beach, and we would actually spend the rest of the morning on the beach. Father taught us to body surf, and then we would come home and sit down to a traditional Sunday roast at the table. Father was very prim and proper, so we had to sit. We would never, in summers, it could be hot as hell, but we had to wear a shirt. And we would have a roast lunch. And while we were at the beach, my mom was cooking 2 meats, was chicken, beef, rice, roast potatoes, gravy, 3 vegetables, and dessert. So every Sunday we would come home to that. So those are my fond memories of my parents. I must say that my discipline comes from my father, and from my mother, my artisticness comes from my mother. So those are the 2 characteristics I gained from them, or traits. So I was there. I went to Selborne Primary School for my primary years, and then I went to Commercial High. And in those days, you had a commercial school and a technical school. So the commercial school was all your subjects except biology. You had to do biology and science and geography and history up until year 10, and then 11 and 12, you actually chose your subjects. So we did things like, I did economics, business economics, maths, English. You had to do Afrikaans, so you had to learn 2 languages. And I did economics. So those were my subjects growing up. From there, I went to university, Rhodes University in Grahamstown, and studied a Bachelor of Commerce, majoring in economics and law. And after that, I did a higher diploma in education in order to become a teacher.
There's a lot in that. You answered all the questions I was going to ask. What is a roast in South Africa? I was thinking of some exotic game, but no, it's not. It's pretty much chicken and beef. I was going to ask you what are the things your parents taught you, and you answered that. And then you have most well-dressed man I've ever seen. You're the most well-disciplined guy I've ever seen. So I think combination of your family and the maybe a bit of the military in South Africa taught you that. Anthony Petrie in his interview summed up his growing up, and I feel like, without putting words in your mouth, it's very similar. He said he grew up feeling so rich, but they had no money. And I think you were rich in love, rich in not needing for anything, and your parents gave you great opportunities. One question about the schools: were they private schools? You said that.
No. So back in South Africa in those days, there were very few private schools. So these were government schools. So that was in the apartheid era. So naturally, the schools I went to were white schools, and your government schools were very, very, very good. So Selborne Primary it still is a government school, but it's semi-private in that sense. And then all the government schools became what we call Model C schools when they start to allow the blacks to join in with those schools. But going back to what you said with Mr. Petrie, I always said to someone, and it was a girlfriend of mine, I said, she criticized me about something, and I said to, and she came from quite a wealthy family. And I said to, you know what my parents have taught me in life, money can't buy. And that can never, ever be taken away from me. And that's what I'm so proud of my parents for. But every child will realize only when they grow up how precious their parents were to them and what they actually taught them.
So strong foundations, school, great memories. You go to university, compulsory military services.
Yes.
What age?
I was 9. I went to university first, so I only went to army about 22, 23.
1 year?
2 years. We had to do 2 years. It's compulsory. It was your choice. You could either go to army before going to university or after university. So I chose to go before because I was going to become a teacher. They actually paid me a salary while I was in the army. So I actually had to go in a month before everyone else did because I had to go in when school started. So in the army for the first 6 months, you just do basics and you do an officer's course. And then because of my BCom background, I went into finance.
Nothing.
No, not yet. But there's a whole lot of roles. And then after army, you actually had to do military service. The reservists, like here, we call them commandos. And you had to go every Monday night, you had to go to army for 10 years. And then I gained the rank I left with the army with becoming a full lieutenant. And then while I was doing my so-called reservist stunt, I became a captain in the South African Army.
Over a 10-year period.
Over 10-year period. It was in the first 3 years. The other thing that the army taught me, when you go to army, they ask you what sports you have to take, what sports you actually like. And at that stage, I've always run, did gymnastics, swimming, those type of sports, played a bit of rugby. And then when I went to the army, I thought, the one guy came up and said, what are you going to do on a Wednesday afternoon when you've got sports parade? So I started to run. So in my first year of running marathons, which I'd never run in my life before, I did 2 oceans, which is a 56-kilometer race from one ocean to the other. And I ran my first Comrades.
We're going to talk about Comrades. Let's not get too far ahead because more often than keen to hear a bit about Comrades. This podcast was designed in our 125th year to get to know people, right? It's not meant to be any kind of, it doesn't have a political slant or an education slant, but because you grew up in the thick of it, the most impactful book I've ever read is Nelson Mandela's autobiography. If you haven't read it, people read it. It's unbelievable.
It is very good.
Which effectively translated to English as a part. Your country was completely divided. What did you learn during that?
Absolutely. What I learned in apartheid is it is unfair to have that segregation. Everyone is equal, and therefore everyone should be treated equally, and it wasn't. And I have to admit it was wrong. And it's difficult. How do you express it? The blacks did have a very, very difficult time. I felt sorry for them because they would have to get up 4, 5 o'clock in the morning, catch the bus into town because no one was allowed to. They had what they call a day pass. I'm trying to think what the Afrikaans terminology was, where they had to be no one was allowed to be on the streets, I think after 10 o'clock, unless they lived in town in a house, in the back of a house or something like that. So they would have to travel, get up at 4 o'clock, travel, work the whole day, and then get back to their homes at night. So it was very, very difficult for them.
I suppose the country probably hasn't recovered. It takes generations to recover from that behaviour that inbuilt, probably rural areas more so than city areas, but that apart.
Yeah.
So long. And Nelson Mandela did a good job of starting that journey, but I still feel, having been to South Africa a few times, it's still challenges in the country. It's such a beautiful country.
It absolutely is. I admired Nelson Mandela. If his predecessors could have only followed on what he wanted, that country would be magnificent. But unfortunately, they've all blamed the past years and never moved forward. And I always said, if South Africa could just accept everyone's equal, we one nation, and go forward, that country would have blossomed and developed into a very strong economy.
I view sport as a bit of a catalyst to try. There's quite rules in the workplace. And, no country's perfect. And I don't for 1 second say this country is in a great position in terms of where we're at either. But I feel like a partners is probably the scars cut pretty deep at that time. Probably haven't recovered. Absolutely beautiful country. We'll talk about moving out here, but you touched on Comrades. And
yes.
Anyone listening to this may have heard of Comrades. For those that haven't run it into South Africa, can you please explain to the listeners what Comrades is?
It is one of the prestigious marathons in that year calendar, and it's run from Durban to Pietermaritzburg or Pietermaritzburg to Durban. So what we call it, there's an up run from Durban to Pietermaritzburg and a down run from Pietermaritzburg back to Durban. Now, the up run's great. It's 87 kilometers. Down run is bad because you've got all the hills. It kills your knees. It kills your knees. I was very lucky. The two that I ran were both up runs. So there was an exception to the rule because the one here was Pietermaritzburg's centenary year, and they wanted to have it finished there. So I ran 2 up runs. Now, what people don't realize is that you're running for, people finish it in 4 hours, 5 hours, but you run for 10, 12 hours. And in my days, there wasn't any enhancing taking stuff. I remember, yes, the shoes were there, but I remember we drank Coke, but we had to take the fizzy. They used to have a sachet of corn syrup, and you had to induce this while you're running, and it's thick. And I always remember to run and eat bar ones. So bar ones were given out along the road. No, it's just like your Mars bar, but it's the bar one, and you're running up there. And all you could think of is stopping at the side of the road, because in those days everybody was on the side of the road and they were braaiing a barbecue on the side of the road. You just wanted to stop and ask them for a piece of boerewors or some bread. That's all you wanted to do. So I was very lucky in the sense that I managed to achieve 2 bronze medals.
That's because of the time, right?
Yes. So you start off at 6 o'clock in the morning. Halfway, if you do not reach halfway within 5 hours, you may no longer continue because you would never finish in the required amount of time.
They're talking. They shoot a gun in the air. If you're 5 meters from the guy.
Absolutely.
Time's up.
I will never forget. The guy turns his back to the finish line and he lifts the pistol up and he shoots it. And if you haven't crossed that line, you could be 1 foot away from it. You have not completed the Comrades.
I mean this in the most respectful way, but it's so South African. So you said you only took up running when you went to that party.
Correct.
Did you go from not being like a distance runner to finishing Comrades? When you said it's one of the biggest races in the country, it's probably the most respected race in the world. Every runner, I'm not a runner, my wife, she's run it twice. every runner knows Comrades. How did you go from being a novice amateur runner to finishing Comrades?
I often question myself about that because normally you'd have to build yourself up to running marathons and then running. Like I said, I would run with my father, perhaps a 5K, a 10K, that type of thing. I did run what we used to call, well, still run today. It's in its 50th year. The surface marathon, it's 18 Ks, run along the beaches in East London, and you've got to swim 2 rivers. That's flat. But you have to, and it's all along the beach, so it's over rocks and all that type of thing. So that was my longest race I'd run before going into the army. I just put my head down to it. We had to go out every morning before, so you would get up earlier than your fellow soldiers, and we would go out for a run, for a 10, 15K run. You try to get the kilometers on your legs during the week. And then you have to run a marathon to qualify for the Comrades and for 2 Oceans. So in my first year, I must have run about 12 marathons to get that. But to me, it's the best sport ever because you get out there, your first 5Ks may be difficult, and then you get into a stage or a level where everything just goes past and you just, off you go, and that's how you enjoy the running.
So, a couple of things. First question, how many times did you say to yourself over the 87K?
To really be honest, never. Never.
Wow.
No.
Never, not once in the run?
Not once in the run. Not that I can remember. But honestly, I never ever wanted to quit. I was very lucky. My second marathon was to actually run with my brother. And I've actually got a photograph of us, of the 2 of us running together. And the second one, I was very lucky and I managed to run it in 9.5 hours. So yeah, that was one of my biggest achievements. And the other big achievement, which we haven't touched on, is there's a sport in South Africa called drum majorettes. So that's a group of girls of 49 that perform on the sides of a rugby field to music, and it's military and that. I coached for 20 years that at the school, because the school I went to, Commercial High, I was head boy. And then while I was at university and in the army, I came back and trained these girls. And then afterwards, I came back and taught at the school as well. And then I trained these girls, and the squad I trained over the years, in the last 15 years, we were in the top 3 in the country. So we were... Yes, so we've won the national championships. I think we won it about 5 times. And then actually went over to the World Championships in Nagoya in Japan. So I went over 4 times to the World Championships. And besides running the Comrades, this is the other big achievement in my life, is because we had just entered the international arena because of apartheid, we were allowed to send 2 teams representing South Africa. And I think that year we came 3rd and or 2nd, and the guy that came 1st, he had previously been, so he had known what this, he had taken his squad over, and he knew what was entailed. Yeah. And they gave me 6 girls. I was only allowed to take 6 girls over. And he chose the best categories he wanted and left 2 categories to me. And was flag twirling, I'll never forget, and baton twirling. Never done baton twirling in our lives. So the 6 girls came to me and we trained. We watched videos. And the one family, the family actually sold their TV to actually send their daughter on this tour. Anyway, to cut things short, we went up to Johannesburg to fly out overseas. We really were the underdogs, and all the TV cameras were on this other guy and his squad. And we said, fine, we'll just go and we'll do our best. So off we went. We went to Nagoya, and it was in an old Olympic indoor stadium. And it is live broadcast in Japan. You've got this massive bank of lights on you, and it's very much on the sides of I would say, a netball court or a basketball court. So we went on, and the girls went on, they did baton, they threw these things up, and because of all the bank of lights, they couldn't see it, so everything fell on the floor. And we went into flag twirling, and we'd never done flag twirling, so we introduced something unique to it because it was a mace which we put a flag on. Anyway, so we did this and we got into the finals. So I went into the girls' change rooms. I said to them, girls, we got this far. Let's just go out there and enjoy ourselves. And that's what the girls did. They went out there and enjoyed themselves. And there were 10 countries, Germany, England, America, all in the competition. And there must have been about between 500 to 800 girls taking part in this competition. And we were standing there and they were calling out the positions. Of course, it's all in Japanese. Came to our category, third place called out, second place was called out. And we thought, well, we didn't get anywhere. And then all of a sudden, one of the girls tapped me on the shoulder, said, look at the board. And we looked at the board and we actually had won the world championships to that category. So we came home. The other guy had gone over and hadn't won anything. And all the cameras were on him when we left. And when we came back, it was the reverse. So that was one of the biggest achievements in my life.
And the photo, you had that photo of that team in your office.
Yes, I did. Yes, yeah.
Very sharp, very Marcus Kipling.
That's right. Yes.
But there's also a couple of those girls that emigrated to Australia. You've met throughout the years over in Oz, some of the girls.
Yes, there are actually 4 living on the coast, and one of them is my best friend. So it's a very small world.
Absolutely. So which one is your greatest personal achievement? You said 2. One is Comrades. That is unbelievable. And I suppose it is harder to compare because one is strictly individual. Other one's more of a team event. Which one? Which one do you treasure the most? Do you Comrades bronze or?
I must say the team one, because it is magnificent to see how these girls perform, and you've trained them and this is what they give back to you. So it was a great achievement.
How many people were in that arena watching? Can you remember?
There must have been at least 5,000-6,000 people watching the finals. And then, of course, it was broadcast live as well.
Because I only asked that question because South Africa can be a dangerous country depending on where you go. But for the day Comrades is on, there's just this unwritten rule that it is like literally the safest place you can be on the planet. But the amount of people on the road, the entire way, and then when you get to places like Hillcrest, the schools are out, bands are playing, and it's just talk about a show. So again, you talk about the show, South Africa running, then you go to probably the biggest show in the world over in Japan and you win that. So pretty special both. Yeah. One question about the competition. Is there a live band playing? Do you have the school band with you? Or
No, it's taped music. You've got to put various pieces together with that. The one year we went over when we actually, that was in 1993. In 94, when we got our new flag, I took the girls over and we went back into the flag twirling section and we came second that year. We actually had the new South African flags all in sequence. That was their dress, was that.
Forget about yourself. You were the first to raise the flag over in Japan.
It was still in Japan, yes, yeah.
So you've had some amazing experiences. I don't want to jump ahead too quickly because your foundation's in South Africa. You had a wonderful upbringing. You got to experience a lot. When does the thought of Australia enter your mind?
I must say that when apartheid was abolished, that was, yes, 94. When that was abolished, I did not have much faith in a black government because history has shown us that most of the black countries are not well run. And my concern was not then, but when I had grown old, when I would have grown old, what would my pension be worth? What could I afford in the country? And how safe would it be for me as an old person to walk down the street?
What age are you when you're thinking this?
No. I was 39 years old.
So we have jumped.
Yes.
You get to late 30s, you're already thinking about what does retirement happen?
Well, it's got nothing to do with that. It just, when we had looked at what happened to some old Rhodesia that came to Zimbabwe, what had happened there, land was confiscated, You go and look at, well, it's not Mozambique, but Angola, Nigeria, all those areas, and you see how their population was actually treated. And there was a gap between the poor and the rich even then. And even today in South Africa, unfortunately, there is a big, vast difference between the rich and the poor. And the poor people that should have gained by apartheid being dismantled haven't gained by it. So that's the sad story. So anyway, so that's what made me look at. And then a colleague of mine that taught with me, she came over to Australia. I'm still teaching in East London. Yeah, so I've only taught ever at 2 schools. That was at all 3 schools. One was only for 6 months, but Stirling High School, which commercial became Stirling High School, and then here at TSS. So I had taught, I think, about 20-something years at Stirling before I came here.
Loyalty is a big part of it.
To me, it is. I prefer it if the school or whatever I'm doing means a lot to me, I will stick to it. And that's what I've loved about both schools, is that I would never want to teach. If I look back to both Stirling and TSS, I would not want to teach at any other school.
We better not jump ahead too quickly because we're only just getting to the thought of coming to Australia. My question to you is, once that becomes a reality, and things were put in place in governments so it was easy to come over as a skilled professional. You talked about having lunch with your family, how close you were. One of your best memories is running Comrades with your brother. You still have a very close relationship with your sister, your late parents. How's that dinner table conversation going that you are thinking of being so close, not leaving East London to do Comrades or to go to Nuku'era in Japan? How's that conversation going?
Well, the funny thing is, my brother said to me, I never believed you until you actually got on the plane. So, as I said, a colleague of mine that taught with me at Stirling, she had come over to... She had already moved. No, she moved to Brisbane. So what had happened in my life was I got to that stage where I was ahead of a year level. So we didn't have heads of department. We had year... That's right. So that's what... So I was the year coordinator for year 11s for about 15 years. And I said to myself, East London had become too small for me. I wanted to move out. So my next move was to Cape Town, because I always loved Cape Town. And what had happened in those days, they actually froze all posts. So they weren't allowed to appoint new posts. So if I went down to Cape Town, I would have to go down as the teacher, not as a head of department.
No one could then be promoted.
No.
Whatever position you're in, you stay.
You stayed in that, or you had to go down. It was just those years, it was finances, and I also think getting more black teachers into white schools. So that's what they did. So they froze. It was more of a financial thing that they just froze everything.
So you're in Cape Town and your position gets frozen, or you?
No, I'm in East London now. So my thought was either Cape Town. So I thought I want to go to Cape Town. And then when all this happened, I thought, well, where else can I go? And then I thought, I came over in 98 and I came to Perth, Melbourne, Brisbane, and Sydney. Those were the 4 cities I visited, and visited various schools there. And I went over to New Zealand as well and visited New Zealand, some schools there. And when I was there, I thought, this weather's not for me. I don't like the cloudy days and the rain all the time. So I said, that is out. And I'm very much of a sun boy. So Australia was perfect. I mean, taking yourself out of South Africa and putting yourself into Australia, there's no difference. Absolutely. Your climate's the same. Your fun, wouldn't say
architecture's similar,
yeah,
like everything.
Everything about it. So I came out, then I went back, and I still thought about it. And in those days, you didn't go through an agency. You could go through an agency, but I did it all off by myself. So so the year I was turning 40, if I turned 41, I wouldn't get in because I would have been short of 5 points, by 5 points. So my birthday's in October, and I put my application in September because they stamp your applications from that date. So I put my application in, and they said, this is because you've done it on your own, this is going to take 2, 3, 4 years before they'll come back to you. And funny enough, the following September, I got to say I had permanent residency in Australia.
Before you'd even moved out.
Before I even had moved out.
Stamped at 40, you're now 41.
That's right, yes.
Process, you can go on.
Yes, so it was a year since I applied and then received my permanent residency in the country. And I was blown away by it because I wasn't expecting it. So I then all of a sudden, and I didn't want to apply for positions before I knew because I didn't know I was getting in. And so I then started to apply, and I said to my parents, I'm going. So I hadn't even sold my house yet. So I had a friend moving to my house. I said, I left the selling of my house to my parents. And on the 1st of January 2002, I landed in Australia. And I came up to Brisbane, and I stayed with Heather and Nigel Page. She was a colleague of mine. And for 3 months, I got 2 relief days. I had sent my CV out to about 20 schools.
You had managed to convert to many.
Badly. But I'll tell you a funny story is I had to do my driver's license again. Can you believe it? After 40 years, I had to do my driver's license again. Anyway, I did pass. And I drove into the centre of Brisbane, and I looked out and said, the car parks were just too expensive. In our terms, it was like 160 Rand now for a day in a car park. So I parked on the side of the road, got out, went, looked around Brisbane, came back. I remember, it was 4:05, and I didn't see it saying this was a non-stopping position after 4 o'clock. You couldn't park there. The fine was it $160?
4,000 Rand. Put things in perspective with parking. I parked for one whole day in Peterborough for 4 Rand.
And of course, now you haven't earned any money. You're living off your other money. And naturally, coming over at that stage, prior to me coming over, the Rand was 5 Rand to Australian dollar. And then the Argentina government collapsed, and South Africa was in that pool of countries, and so it jumped up to $6.50 to the dollar. Then when I left, because I was working for the government, they wouldn't allow me to take my money out of the country. So they said to me, and I wanted to take an offshore account, and they said, no, you either leave your money in the country or you take it out. And I thought to myself, leaving my money in here, what is it going to be worth in a few years' time? So I took my money out. I'll never forget, they taxed me 80,000 Rand on my pension. And then you had to take your pension and divide by $6.50 to get your equivalent for money here. Yes.
Which government? We roll the dice, cash in, you sell the house.
Well, my parents sold them for me because I was here. Yes. So the principal at Stirling High School didn't want me to go. He begged me to stay. I said, no, I'm not. He said he offered me other positions and that type of thing. I said, no, I want to go to Australia. So he said, look, you've got 6 months long service leave. I'll give you a year's leave at half pay. Go over, see what Australia's like, and then make a decision. So now going back to it, I landed here. So for 3 months, I never had a job. And then I was offered a position at, is it Moreton Bay College? West Moreton College, out that way.
There's West Moreton, Anglican, and Ipswich, and then there's Moreton Bay College.
No, the one in Ipswich.
West.
Yes. Got that offer because I had gone through an agency now. And I got offered a contract at TSS for 6 weeks. And I spoke to my friend Heather, and she said to me, it's going to be more prestigious for you to have TSS on your resume. Go for it. So I came down here knowing no one. So you must understand that I'm the only one in my family that immigrated. So the rest of my family is still back in South Africa. No one's left there even to this day. So I came out, knew no one except for Heather and Nigel. And I always prayed. Just going back quickly, when I had deciding whether I should go to Cape Town or to Australia, religion means a lot to me. My faith means a lot to me. And I prayed about it and I said, God, if you want me to get into Australia, you get me in. If I don't get in, I know you want me to go to Cape Town. And funny enough, I got into Australia. And to this day, I thank him for that. There's an old saying in South Africa that I actually fell with my bum in the butter. So in other words, I got everything that I wanted and even better. So I always said to myself, I wanted to teach at a private school, at the ocean, at the sea, because I was brought up at the sea, and in a boarding school. Now, Stirling was a boarding school, and I also stayed as a resident master at Stirling in the boarding house as well. So that was my wish. And then this contract came up for 6 weeks, and my prayers were answered. So
God was smiling down on you. Right?
Most definitely.
This is the perfect segue. So I've been breaking the interviews into two parts, part A and part B. We have just so perfectly come to a natural conclusion for part A, because then part B will be talking all about life at TSS. So half your working life's been in South Africa. We can now talk about the other half. So we'll take a break, come back and talk more about TSS.
Thank you very, very much.